There's a specific moment every high performer knows. The stakes climb, the room goes quiet, and something inside you tightens. Your breathing gets shallow, your thoughts speed up and go nowhere. You've prepared for this. You know your material, and yet the version of you that shows up is smaller than the one you practiced with. Most people explain this away. They say they're just not built for pressure, or they need more confidence, or they have to want it more. But that's not what's happening. The way your body responds when the stakes are highest was not decided this morning. It was set a long time ago, before you ran a company, before you led a team, before you had any language for what pressure even was. This isn't about weakness. It's about wiring. And once you understand where that wiring came from, you stop fighting yourself and start retraining the system. Start with what actually happens in the body. When you perceive a threat, a hostile question, a deadline, a decision you can't undo, a small structure in the brain called the amygdala fires before your conscious mind catches up. It floods you with stress hormones and prepares you to fight, flee, or freeze. This system is fast, ancient, and completely uninterested in your quarterly targets. It exists to keep you alive. The problem is that it can't tell the difference between physical danger and social danger. To your nervous system, a room full of skeptical investors and a predator in the grass produce the same alarm. So when you lose composure, you're not failing. You're running a survival program at full volume in a situation that doesn't call for it. The performers who stay calm aren't missing this program. They've simply changed how loud it gets, and how loud yours runs was set earlier than you think. Here's the part people resist because it feels like blame. And it isn't. The sensitivity of your stress response gets calibrated in childhood. In the first years of life, your brain is learning one question constantly. Is the world safe? And can I rely on the people around me when things go wrong? If the answer was mostly yes, if distress was met with steadiness, your system learned that difficulty is survivable and help is available. Your baseline alarm was set lower. If the answer was inconsistent, if calm was rare or unpredictable, your system learned to stay on guard. It set the alarm higher because for a small child, staying alert was the intelligent move. None of this is about having bad parents or a tragic story. Ordinary households produce this too. The point is simply that the thermostat for your pressure response was installed young, by experiences you didn't choose and can't remember. You've been performing with those settings ever since. If your composure were fixed at birth, this would be a bleak conversation, but it isn't fixed, and that changes everything. The same quality that let your brain absorb those early settings, its ability to rewire itself in response to experience, never fully switches off. Neuroscientists call it neuroplasticity. It means the nervous system you inherited is not a verdict. It's a starting position. This is where the Stoics were centuries ahead of the science. Epictetus taught that we are disturbed not by events, but by our judgments about events. He wasn't denying that pressure is real. He was pointing at the gap between the trigger and your response, the small space where a trained mind can choose instead of react. That gap is exactly what plasticity lets you widen. You can't delete the alarm, but you can teach your system, repetition by repetition, that this particular moment is not the emergency it feels like. So how do you actually retrain it? Not by trying to feel calm. You can't command a feeling. You retrain it the way any deep pattern gets changed, through repeated, deliberate reps under mild, controlled stress. The mistake most people make is avoidance. They dodge the high-pressure situation, feel relief, and quietly teach the nervous system that the threat was real and escape was the answer. That deepens the exact wiring they want to change. The alternative is to stay in the moment on purpose, feel the alarm rise, slow your exhale, and do the next small, competent thing anyway. That single sequence, pressure, then a controlled response instead of a reflex, is one repetition of new wiring. You will not do it cleanly at first. You'll lose your composure, notice it, and recover. That recovery is not failure. The recovery is the training. It's the same principle that builds a fighter, not the punches you avoid, but how fast you reset after the one that lands. This is where discipline replaces motivation, because retraining happens in the reps you don't feel like doing. 3 practices do most of the work. First, controlled exposure. Put yourself in moderate pressure regularly and on purpose. The hard conversation, the presentation you'd rather delegate, so your system meets stress in doses it can learn from, not in disasters it can only survive. Second, breath before response. When the alarm fires, a slow exhale that's longer than your inhale tells the body directly that the emergency is over. This is one of the few voluntary switches into the calming branch of your nervous system. Use it before you speak, not after. Third, rehearsal in calm. Marcus Aurelius practiced hardship in his mind before it arrived, so that when it came, it was familiar rather than shocking. Do the same. Walk through the difficult moment while your system is quiet and you arrive already having been there once. Familiar situations don't trigger the same alarm, so the next time your composure slips under pressure, stop treating it as evidence of some flaw in your character. It isn't. It's an old survival setting, installed early, running exactly as it was trained to run. That understanding is not an excuse to stay there. It's the first honest step toward changing it. The people who seem unshakable were rarely born that way. Most of them carried the same high alarm you do and rebuilt their response one deliberate rep at a time, staying in the moment, controlling the breath, recovering faster than they fell apart. Composure, it turns out, is not a trait you either have or lack. It's a practice. And the fact that it started in childhood doesn't mean it has to end there. The system was trained once without your consent. You get to train it again, this time on purpose.